Hi everybody, I'm Giancarlo Caltabiano. Felicia is off for today. She's sick, so get well soon, Felicia. Today we'll be reviewing Forged in Steel. In Forged in Steel, players will compete to develop Pueblo County with houses, factories, and commercial buildings, and have the most points by the end of the third era of 1910. The player with the most will win. The board is set here and seated. Players have their roles, and cards have been selected and banked for the first round. The game is played over 3 rounds called eras, each divided into several phases. First being city planning, which is skipped for the first era. Next, it's city building. Players will choose one card, and when all have done so, they'll announce their municipal muscle number, top left of the card, and the lowest will go first. The card can be played for its event, in which case follow the text. Should the event be a headline, place it on the leftmost open space here, sliding others to the right. These will remain and affect the game until removed. You may use its instead, or municipal muscle. Using will make you place ownership cubes or build buildings onto lots that have them previously, awarding 1 VP to whoever owns it, unless they are your own. White cubes, city cubes, will award the player who is mayor 1 VP each. The costs for buildings are listed here. A player may also choose to claim a mine if empty. They roll a d4 and gain that many VPs. A roll of 3 or 4 will also have a player place a cube on the riot track. The mining official can increase or decrease the roll by 1. Seizing another player's building will also cause unrest. We'll get to this later. Some cards can also prevent another card being played. All cards are then out of the game unless it's reoccurring, which goes into the discard pile. Once all cards are played, we go to immigration. You'll count the number of factories and commercial buildings, which will give you a target number. Each player will place that many houses one at a time following turn order on ownership cubes, still giving that player VP. Should you have the immigration officer, you'll place all your houses first, plus an extra one. If players cannot place a house, they'll place 1 cube on the riot track per house is not placed. If ever this reaches 8, the game is paused and a riot will begin. Basically, the player with the lowest amount of cubes here is the instigator, and he'll start to destroy a building from the player with the highest cube here, who is the target. The instigator will roll a die, add any bonuses according to era, and that's how many points worth of destruction he'll cause starting from a target's building. All cubes are then removed from the riot track. After immigration, we go to county assessment or scoring phase. Players will start with mines, factories, and commercial buildings they own, each worth VPs. Basically, following the scoring system, you'll gain VPs for houses and mansions. Prosperity tracts act as multipliers, which gets increased when placing a park in that neighborhood. These are placed via card events only. When all are calculated, we go to the final phase, elections. Similar to county assessments, players receive ballots depending on buildings they have. The highest will get 1 vote in that neighborhood, plus another for each civic buildings in there. When all votes from each neighborhood are totaled, the player with the most goes first on the influence order, becoming mayor. The next goes second, and so on. They'll all choose a role, starting with the second player on the influence track. For the cleanup phase, all cards discarded along with the main deck are shuffled into the next era deck, and a new round and era begins. Going back to city planning, you'll deal 7 cards to each player, combining them with the 2 banked ones from the previous era. From these 9, they'll select 4 to bank for the final era, discard 1, and keep the rest. If a player chooses the city planner, he'll then draw cards equal to the amount of players and pick one for himself, handing the rest to the lowest influenced player, which he then will pick one, giving the rest to the second lowest, and so on. Then the round resumes as we described. The only role we didn't speak of is the mob boss. This player can choose 1 block and roll the die. The value is the number of houses in that block that can be removed. This doesn't even cause unrest. By the end of the third era, the player with the most VPs wins. Forged in Steel is pretty original as a game, and the theme also being unique is well captured, I would say. Plenty of decent components, and though the artwork suits the game well, it clashes with black and white photograph of the same type cards, so a half-point penalty. Now, though there is a strong tactical choice, a lot is dependent on what cards you drew, which will propel you into a certain direction. Now, this isn't such a bad thing, as all venues do seem somewhat balanced, so I will only award a half-point penalty on strategy. However, the other con for me is once again the cards drawn. There's no real way of knowing what the other players hold, giving it a chaotic feel. I really feel a draft was needed when card selecting. There is, however, an abundance of cards giving this game replay value, if you're into these type of games. It certainly can be a little dry for some, but it's not a bad game. For us, it gets a 7 out of 10. Subscribe now to our channel to stay in the loop. If you like our work, help us continue by sharing the channel to your gaming group. Thanks for watching and happy gaming.